Good afternoon, Patriots, and welcome to the 64th audio chat in the Q News Patriot Rumble Channel series. I'm the Q News Patriot, coming to you again with Sheriff Candidate Aldo and the Virginia Beach Patriot Gang. My name is SG Anon. Today's audio chat is going to be relatively short, as we've had some breaking updates in the movement towards a common law republic there in Virginia Beach. As many of you will remember from the previous audio chat, Aldo and a number of others have been pressing what is more accurately described as the bar mafia in their region and neck of the woods to allow them access and redress to the common law grand jury. The mafia knows this, and the events of today will serve to highlight, I think, just how far and how many steps they're willing to take and go towards thwarting we the people getting back into the reins of power and control. Thank you both for joining me. If you'll allow me just for a moment here, for the audience, I'm going to pull up video, Ms. Sarah, of your reaction immediately after leaving the courthouse. As it was described to me, you were essentially manhandled out of the courtroom, out of the courthouse, nonviolent, not posing any problems, just seeking to assert the information that you have in defense of your constitutional rights. And I think it's powerful what actually occurred here. So allow me a moment. I'm going to share this for the audience.
How are you doing?
Brutality kicked us out. We didn't even have a chance to speak. The police ripped my shirt off. My bra was hanging out.
What?
Yeah.
The police?
Yes, they're disgusting.
They grabbed your clothing and
grabbed me and another woman. They were very violent, pushing us. We're like, we have the right to be here. And I mean, they are disgracing the country. They are not about liberty. They are about control. This court is totally wrong. It is totally anti-American.
Oh my goodness.
It's the most disgusting behavior I have ever seen in my entire life.
They weren't gonna escort you out. They just told you to leave.
They told us to leave. I said we had the right to be here. He grabbed us, this big brute of a guy it was total police brutality on two women.
Oh my gosh. Really?
I'm 5'4", and this big giant policeman grabbed me. I told you, my shirt was ripped down and my bra was hanging out, coming out of the
I wonder if that's why they don't allow cameras in courtrooms.
I'm sure it is, because that's the way they treat people in there.
Remarkable and compelling. And as I understand it, Aldo, a gentleman that was actually with us on our previous audio chat, on our first audio chat, who weighed in, named Victor, a very nice man wearing a cowboy hat, I believe, at the time for that chat, is no longer with us because he was arbitrarily, randomly, and in a retaliatory manner thrown into jail with no charges. Is this a correct assessment? And again, thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you, SG, for having us and for your audience. We had 6 people in that courtroom, myself being number 6, with the same statement in hand. We understood that they would probably try to stop us. So the plan was, if somebody got stopped, the next person, they're numbered, would pick up where they left off. And if I may, I'd like to read the statement for your listeners. I think it's very insightful. It says, this is what Victor was reading to the grand jury when the judge said 10 days in jail for you, and the sheriff grabbed him, and that's when all mayhem broke out in the grand jury proceeding. It says, grand jury members, it's your duty to hear us. It takes 4 of you to agree to hear us. Will you agree to hear us? Grand jury, you have authority over our court and a duty to hear evidence of criminal activities by our government and officials. Please direct the court to stand down so that we can give a public presentment. It is unlawful for our court to deny this, and the grand jury has authority over our court, officers, and officials. Please exercise your power over this court to hear a citizen's presentment. That was this. The Handbook for Virginia Grand Jurors, Rule 16, our constitutions, and the federal 1992 Williams Black Letter Law ruling allow for presentment of information on public or common nuisance and conditions that involve or tend to promote criminal activities in our communities. Thank you for your service to justice for all. So that was a statement that 6 of us went in to make sure that grand jury heard today. And as soon as Victor stood up, got through the first sentence, the judge sentenced him to 10 days in jail. The sheriff grabbed him and they shut down the court. They grabbed Janice Grenier, handled her roughly. They detained her. We sent somebody to pay the $1,000 bail for her to get her out. We're now working on Victor Jackson's release. We're starting tomorrow morning daily from 8 to 10 a.m. There will be lawful coordinated liberty action in the form of citizens protests in front of the Virginia Beach Circuit Court to protest that our grand jury is independent and that Victor needs to be released. We've already, 8 of us went directly to the Norfolk Federal Court to filed an expedited emergency habeas corpus petition. That means produce the body. That means we're asking the federal judge to force the Virginia Beach authorities to bring Mr. Jackson to the federal court to explain to the federal court why his constitutional rights are being denied and violated and why he's being unlawfully detained. And we also have a federal filing that's being prepared by several large constitutional organizations that will be filed this week to address these issues in more detail in front of judges.
Powerful and I think very compelling. Ms. Sarah, if I could, I want to come back to you just for a moment. You seem to have had a very good pulse, and at least in the video I shared a moment ago, you were obviously very dialed into the moment and what was happening within that courtroom. Now that we're a little bit beyond that, do you care to give my audience a flavor of the atmosphere of the courtroom? In other words, did it seem like a courtroom that was willing to uphold the law and it was just tense, or do we have a coordinated resistance here going on towards we the people?
It definitely was a coordinated resistance against we the people. Like Aldo said, Victor hardly got out any of that first sentence before the jury was almost standing up to leave the room before the judge even said anything. So it was almost like they had been prepared. They knew we were going to come in there and they were already prepared for that, and they were not going to hear us. They didn't want to hear what we had to say. They don't want to hear the truth. And they were definitely, the police were rough with us. I guess it was the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department, actually. They were rough with us. All they do is follow the orders from the judge sitting up there. And I can tell you from my own experience in that courtroom and observing and being in there before, I've watched that judge violate our Constitution before. So he does not follow the law of the land. He is definitely committing basically treason up there when he does not do that. So yeah, those are right now, as we can see, they do not work in our favor. They're not for us. They are not our courts, and they do not serve justice at all.
And as I understand it, the grand jury impaneling that you all attempted to reach today happens twice a month there in your community. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, sir. It's the first and the third Monday of the month.
The first and the third Mondays. And so, if I may, Ms. Sarah was describing a moment ago that the jury was essentially like sort of ready to leave after first arriving. Is there an element, again, without being disparaging or moving too far into speculative territory, is there an element of jury capture or jury intimidation that we should consider here in our discussions?
Yes, absolutely. There's evidence that jury spoilated. And when I say spoilated, it means spoiled or manipulated. And there's a couple things. So it's in the very handbook for grand jurors that's produced by the Supreme Court of Virginia. And in the Virginia Code, it's in violation of our Constitution, which says the grand jury is separate from the all other 3 branches of the government. In the Virginia Code, it spells out that in the months of June, July, and August, the judges are supposed to give a list of names of 60 to 120 citizens to the clerk's office to serve as the grand jury for the coming year. And then the clerk subsequently, 20 days in advance, gives a shorter list of names to the sheriff's office to summons those individuals to come in for their duty. And in Virginia Beach, they summons a new grand jury the first Monday of the month, and then that same grand jury is invited to come back on the third Monday. So that meant the people that we saw in there today was the same group of grand jurors we saw in there on the first Monday of July, and that footage is on the website for the Court of Public Awakening. So these people had to know what was going on, and they've been instructed that you get their advice from the Commonwealth's attorney. And what's strange, though, is in the grand juror's book, it talks about under section 16 that they're supposed to be told to see if they have any evidence of conditions which tend to promote criminal activity in the community or by any governmental authority, agency, or official that would merit the impaneling of a special grand jury being one that has investigative authority. And none of that's happening. So what's going on with the grand jury in Virginia Beach, and we believe in other places, is it's been abused and taken into control of the court, which is a violation of the Constitution. There's no separation there. And it's being used to rubber stamp indictments for serious crimes, but it's not serving as its role as a check and a balance between the people. And when the people stand up, we came together as a common law grand jury of individuals and did a proper presentment to the court. And it's sitting at the Supreme Court. They've done nothing with it since June 4th when we filed it. So we decided to take it to the local grand jury ourselves. And this is what we're getting. We're getting Gestapo-like, brutality. Now Victor's in jail for 10 days. It's $1,000 bond to get Janice out. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
It's the illusion of justice in there. That's what I noticed when I observed in the courtroom. Usually you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. It's the opposite. It's pretty much you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent. They use circumstantial evidence. I was told by a lawyer that once you walk in that courtroom, that whatever the judge says goes, that you cannot object to anything. If they order you to do something, you have to do it. So basically you have no liberty in there. It's trickery, and it's bullying. When you read the paperwork that they'll send you, they'll send you things in shouty capitals like you've been ordered, adjudged, and decreed that you have to show up. And basically they say if you don't come, that you and you exercise your right to liberty, that you will be punished for not showing up or not following their orders. Even if their orders violate the Constitution, they will punish you. And that's basically what the paperwork says.
I have a question here sort of on that issue of violating our Constitution and our constitutional oath. The sheriff's office was envisioned, as my understanding, to be that community level elected law enforcement official to stand against government tyranny, to protect the county under which served his leadership. And we know, of course, throughout this process that sheriff's offices, as well as police stations, district attorney's offices, things of that nature, have been co-opted by a number of different interests, and that's a whole podcast in and of its own right. But this question is for Aldo specifically, as it pertains to the office of sheriff and law enforcement officials. How did we get here, and what is the remedy?
Sure. So in Virginia Beach, we currently have an unlawfully appointed sheriff. When even our civil code that they are supposed to be following, because they make it up, says that we were supposed to have a special election when the previously elected sheriff left office over 26 months before the end of his term. And they decided just to ignore that. And the chief judge, who was in the courtroom today, just signed the oath and put the somebody they chose into the constitutional office. And that's a problem. It breaks the chain of accountability between him being an elected officer. And you're absolutely right. The sheriffs are named in every state constitution. They're not named in our federal constitution, but they're there for a good reason. They're there to be accountable to the people in their counties, their jurisdictions. They're the highest law enforcement officer in that jurisdiction for that reason. And they are, and a big part of their duty is to keep the citizens safe from any despotic effects of government's gone rogue or whatnot. And it dates back to pre-Magna Carta, from the days of kings, when there were problems in the lands, and the sheriff was supposed to help mitigate that with the grand jury process with the rulers, and that's broken. So we're watching a systematic breakdown in our constitutional system, and it's happening with things like what's going on in Virginia Beach, which an elected office is now taken out of that cycle, and they just appoint who they want, and that person now is accountable to those who appointed him. Because the way corruption stands is it's like a intricate set of dominoes. They know they're corrupt and they're exposing their corruption, but they protect one another. And if you knock down some key dominoes, it has an effect. And that's what we're trying to do to shift our reality. We are focusing our efforts on restoring the grand jury to the authority of the citizens, and restoring the elected sheriff, who's supposed to help run that process with the help for the citizens, to keep it separate from the other three branches of government, especially the judiciary, because they're using it to rule by tyranny. And the reality is that we live in a judicial kleptocracy. The judges choose when and how to interpret the code. So the question the citizens must ask themselves is, why bother having legislators get elected to determine code if the judges aren't going to follow it? And that is kind of where we're at, the circle where we're at, where we have to right that wrong. We have to reconnect accountability, restore accountability in our systems. It starts with the grand jury. They have the power. It's in our constitutions. It's in the black letter law from Scalia. We are filing some federal papers that are either going to get addressed and the feds are going to step in and force this to correct, or it's going to end up in the Supreme Court of the United States rather quickly. Because this isn't just Virginia Beach. This is every one of the other 3,200 plus counties across the United States. Again, SG, for your audience, as one nation under God, we live and act locally, and that's where the rubber meets the road.
Indeed it is. Powerful sentiments, and I appreciate you both joining me on short notice for quick coverage of these events. I know that I will be checking back in with you frequently as you pound the torch of liberty there in Virginia Beach. My last question is sort of along those lines. You said a moment ago that you had paperwork getting ready for federal court and federal involvement. What else or what other steps are next for the Virginia Beach Patriot Gang, and how can patriots in the audience get involved?
So you can visit courtofpublicawakening.org. Scroll there. There's a how-to page. We keep that constant with stuff that citizens and patriots that are far in the field can get online and do. Sending emails and messaging and whatnot, or sharing is good. Beginning tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., we're going to do daily 8 to 10 a.m. citizen lawful protests in front of the Virginia Beach Circuit Court to protest on the basis that our grand jury is independent and Victor needs to be released. And that'll happen every day from 8 to 10 a.m. until he's released. And we are, as I said, getting ready in the final stages to file some federal complaints that address these specific issues of what's happened today and what happened on July 1 in front of our grand jury and what is ongoing with our unlawful sheriff. That will force the federal judges to take action. If they won't, it will very quickly get kicked up the chain to the appellate. And if they won't, it'll get kicked up the chain to the Supreme Court. We'll be on all over and on top of that. Again, stay up to date with courtofpublicawakening.org. Everything we do is open source. It's intended to figure out the path back to making America great, back to our freedoms. All that's laid out on Court of Public Awakening. Take and use what you wish. Use the petitions, use the forum, ask questions. We're hoping to maybe set up a blog or space where people can sharpen one another and start to sort of build their own momentum in their own localities.
Incredible. And we will track with you here at QMP every step of the way. Thank you both for joining me. And for the audience out there, I hope you very much enjoyed our conversation. I'll be back with each of you again soon on the Q News Patriot. God bless everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.